I am going to read to you from the blog of Matias de Stefano from the 5th of August 2020. And here behind me is a chart, astrological, and here is Pluto. This is Sagittarius, this is Capricorn, and that's Aquarius. It's not finished yet, as you can see. But the moon at the time of recording is at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So I hope, my dear moon, that you're going to stick there. Oh, let me just press you into the cloth. There we go. Okay, so why I'm reading this is because he talks about power. And in the last video, I talked about codependency, obviously, and empowerment, and how we have like a societal codependence. And this blog specifically talks about that. All right, so I'm going to read this to you. It is translated, I think, by Google from Spanish, so it might have some glitches. All right, let's go. So he talks to his higher self. So me, today I was wondering what power is. I am, that's his higher self. And did you come to any conclusion? Me, well, power is the noun of the verb to be able to do something. So this is translated from Spanish, and in Spanish, power is poder. So power is the noun of the verb to be able to do something. This means that having power is precisely having the ability to I can, which is I can is the mantra for this month, which is Leo. And the concept of Leo would say I can. So everything is in the concept of I am, and the 12 months and the 12 zodiac signs, and they are all archetypal concepts. And Matias de Stefano teaches that throughout the year. It is called the Yo Soy year. Yo Soy means I am. And he remembers that from his life in Atlantis. And go look it up. He talks about Atlantis being of importance right now because we are in the age of Aquarius, and that has resonance with the age of Leo, which is 12,000 years ago, which is when Atlantis fell. But it took like a really long time, and now we're going through the same themes of things that could not, if there are any themes that then could not be properly worked through or worked with, to that we are now balancing those same themes. So here is the empowerment, and I think it's through consciousness. All right, so moving on. So power is the noun of the verb to be able to do something. This means that having power is precisely the ability to I can, to recognize in one the ability to do things for oneself. However, on Earth, in society, it's not the same. So the I am replies. Power in societies is interpreted as being above others, having power over others. Me. Yes, more than anything, it has a negative connotation, which speaks more of control than of the ability to be able to do something in itself. I am replies. Humans are the only animals that are aware of their gifts, of their capabilities. Therefore, they were able to manipulate tools that for other animals are simply a random or reactionary action. This means that from that great discovery of what they were capable of, they had taken control of their potentialities and therefore of their tools. So now they could do anything, using a stick, a stone, a mortar, a plow, a hammer, nails, using chemistry, writing, architecture, music, art, science, and technology. Year after year, the tools became more complex. The human saw that he could build new realities because he had the potentiality and the power over the tool. But the more the population grew, the tools did not give to vast, I don't know, and a single human could not do all the work. Because of this, one of those sages began to teach others how to use the tools, shared the knowledge, and passed on the power. But the greater the number of people, the more hands, the more potential, and therefore the greater the capacity for creation. So the older ones saw other humans as tools, as workers, as warriors, as subjects, as slaves, and as employees. Then people became tools with which things could be done, and therefore over which they had power. More creativity, more creative ability. So the older ones saw other humans as tools. Okay, so me. Using a person as a tool, like a hammer or a nail. I am. That's right. In this way, the sense of power that we possess today was constituted. Being in power doesn't make you powerful, let alone capable or wise. It just makes you someone who knows how to use people as tools, someone who can use people. Me. Until people liberate themselves, revolutionize themselves, and fight for their freedom, knowing that they can too. I am. And that's when they make the same mistake. Me. Which one? I am. At the moment in which the revolution occurs, and the chisel, the hammer, the nail, the gouge, the screwdriver, the compass, the level, and the wrench succeed in banishing the builder, they all begin to fail, because now one of them must come to power. Well, each one of them was taught to be what they are, and they don't know how to be anything else. They don't know how to be a builder, and therefore the battle will lead to chaos until a new builder appears and gives them meaning and purpose to exist. Do you understand? Oh gosh, all right, so this is all about how we need our consciousness to create and evolve together to I will read the rest. Okay, me. That is to say that the power struggle is constant? I am. The power struggle is constant if the power that is sought is the one that the other possesses. Kings and queens, emperors, rulers, all seek to have the power. The people were not educated to have power. The people were educated to have power, but to be under power. Being a tool, a concept was externalized that should never have come out of the interior of each one. Considering another person a tool is not negative, okay. The negative is considering that all tools are the same, that they all are hammers. If the tools do not find their own purpose, their true power, after each revolution, a new builder will come and take power over them. Okay, me. Therefore, there are two types of power. The one that makes us know what we are capable of doing with our inner potential, and the one that makes us want to use others as tools for our own purposes. Oh my God, I am looking at all of us Capricorns. I am one like that. We are the ones that use. That is like our skill to use. Okay, just saying. I am. And both are the same. Two sides of the same coin. A society without power or the search for power does not exist. Humanity needs the different powers, but it needs to know what power means. The same is the ability to achieve, to give others that sense that each one has a useful potential for the whole, that each one is unique, and from that awareness, the builder builds an incomparable power. The creative, freedom of the tools. Ooh, okay. Me. Thus, the tools cease to be to become doers, builders. So, people being tools that are now recreating themselves, recreating their worlds, growing, evolving. All right? Okay. So, the I am says that is called empowerment. Another misused concept. Empowerment is not taking away the power of another to take the one that corresponds to me. I don't know what that means. It is awakening my ability to collaborate with the balance of the other. No need to be used or to use anyone. Real power is built when the being shows others that they are capable of awakening their own, something you call leadership. Me. But why would leadership be needed? I am. Because you are mammals. Simple. From the moment you are born, you are subservient to mother and father as examples. One of the two will set the trend and direction of the group. The family has a natural hierarchy. It can be anyone, but it does. Something that does not exist in reptiles and birds or other kingdoms. The mammal, especially the large mammals, have evolved to migrate. And in any migration, a guide is needed, someone who advances ahead. Then they called him father or shaman or leader, king, etc. Today it is a politician who had been awarded said power. It's natural and it's not bad. Me. But hierarchical power hurts us. I am. So, why haven't you changed it in the last 20,000 years? Me. Okay, because there's always a new power or empire or dictatorship or any other system that subjugates again. I am. For a power to take effect, many must surrender that power. In other words, if a control system arises in the world, it is because its population does not know how to use its own power. The two factors add up. The irresponsibility or inability to awaken your own power, and the mammalian nature that flows in your blood, needing someone to follow. In other words, there are no such separate things as those in the village and those in power. You are all human, humans with the irresponsibility of empowerment. Me. How should we solve this cycle? I am. Educating humans to awaken their inner power, reminding them what each of them is capable of. The education you have only gives you tools to become new tools. Knowledge and wisdom cannot be given, they can only be shown. It is only the inner power that makes us seek knowledge and awaken wisdom. Learning what is taught today as a citizen is the next step to learning to be a person. Well, you are all individuals rather than a collective. It ignites the potential of the individual and it will be useful to the collective. And in 3 generations, you will all be powerful. So this is all about educating people to awaken their inner power. This is why astrology, why human design, all of these things. Matias de Stefano also talks about the importance of astrology and pointing towards, like, what are you here to do? So that you're playing your role and not someone else's, and you're learning to master all of those potentialities that you actually already have in you. I was pointing to Pluto because Pluto is generational kind of concepts, and especially power dynamics. So, okay, so me says, who will govern then? And I am says, the knowers and the wise, those who, having awakened their potential, serve as tools and guides, not as leaders. So this is what we're doing. When we empower ourselves, we are awakening our potential to serve as tools and guides and not to take power over others. Leading is you go first. It's not about having followers. It's about showing up and doing it. All right. So me says, transcend the mammal phase then. I am says, evolve. Taking power from the unconscious is to control the tools. Being the power from consciousness is guiding others to find their own tools. Me says, this is very difficult to do. It takes a long time. And the I am says, and yeah, what else do you have to do? And the me says, well, survive. Here it comes, guys. The I am says, oh, right, that detail. That is the biggest impediment to empowerment. The biological need to survive, to eat and sleep. Governments control populations through this. Religions do it as well, and even families. Today you go to your room without dinner. Punishment and reward, they call it. This need is the main reason why there is a society, but not a civilization. These are just ideas, okay? They're interesting ideas. So here civilization has a different connotation than, let's say, if you grew up in Africa and were told, well, be civilized. No, that's not civilization. Okay, so here it is. The main factors of society are the agglomeration of individuals and groups so that through exchange, they can survive in harmony as long as possible. The main factors of a civilization are the incentive to cultural and intellectual development, to the formation of a searching philosophical and artistic spirit. All right. It is evident that until you overcome the social needs, you will not be able to build a civilization. However, the paradox lies in the fact that the only way to solve the social is through the civilized. Each one has their own concept of what civilization means. But in reality, every people or being that has an awareness of itself. So it is all about awareness. Okay, so the me says, I remember that 12,000 years ago, the rulers had to be very prepared in their inner being before coming to power, because they had to be a reflection to imitate, not to follow. All right, I want to tell you here something, this story about how oral traditions used to work in the past. So if you were higher up in the hierarchy, you needed to know more about the history of your people than if you were lower down in the hierarchy. And anyone who rose to leadership had to know everything. And especially like the shamans, they kept like the knowledge of, and I am not talking about like, having a computer and a Google to search. No, these people had like the memories stored in their minds. They had rituals in order to remember all of the things that they had to know about their whole society. They had like whole encyclopedias that they would retell to each other. And so a person in leadership position, like the amount of knowledge that they had to have, surrounded by people who also remembered all of the knowledge so that they knew, how they should react to certain things. And all of this knowledge was like programmed into their landscape. And they were completely inside their world of history. Okay, I know this sounds very vague, but I just wanted to put that in there about indigenous societies as now written about by Lynn Kelly in The Memory Code. Go read it. Giving us a really good insight into indigenous societies as they still exist today, and how the pragmatic ways of passing on oral knowledge and oral traditions and how we are still made for that kind of information. Okay, I'm going back to this. All right. So, he was saying the rulers had to be very prepared in their inner being before coming to power because they had to be a reflection to imitate and not to follow. And the I Am replies, that is an empowered being. The goal of a coherent being which reflects the inner balance in the external world and is consistent both inwardly and outwardly. The current world is based on the forms of power, but not on its essence. The great challenge is to get out of all the concepts of power, both from the right and from the left, as a center, beyond ideologies, beyond economic or educational positions, behind or inside all this. There's a common factor: humanity. Empower the human concepts in each individual, and you will have humanity. Isn't that beautiful? Just a little again. That is an empowered being, the goal of a coherent being which reflects internal balance in the external world and is consistent both inwardly and outwardly. Empower the human concept in each individual and you will have humanity. So the me says, therefore, those who awaken their inner power will be those who can help transcend the social to reach the civilized and thus evolve. And the I Am says, and for that, you must empower yourself. And so the me says, I can. And the I Am says, I am power.